is changing at unprecedented speed, and technological innovations are reshaping how we operate, strategize, and respond to adversity. Across the Indo-Pacific and the world, dozens of countries are banding together to foster cooperation and joint deterrence to ensure the protection of the largest region on the planet. We are separated by geography, but bound by a shared duty. Air power. It responds first. It reassures quickly. It deters decisively. Since demands can change quickly, we must hone our readiness and integrate our collaborative strengths, rising to the challenges tomorrow may bring. The stability of this vast region cannot be preserved by any one nation alone. It is sustained only when we work together, truly integrating our efforts in shouldering this great responsibility. Our friendships are a shield against common threats. Our relationships are the foundation of stability in times of adversity and crisis. This is no mere gathering of leaders. It is an affirmation of our integrated strength, a shared purpose, a collective commitment. The partnerships we strengthen here send a clear message that we stand united in preserving freedom and security of everyone calling the Indo-Pacific home.
And now we will have the Pacific Air Force's Command Chief, Katie McCool, and our special guest, the Warrant Officer of the Australian Air Force, Ralph Clifton.
All right.
Let's
Welcome.
do this.
Good day, mate. I told you I was going to do it.
You're going to have to do better than that.
A couple of thank yous first. Thank you to AFSA for the opportunity to bring out one of our allies and partners. And we were talking this morning about my first AFSA was in 1997, and this is his first. So pretty full circle moment. And then I would be remiss, we've talked a lot about family today, to not say Chief Retired Chris McCool is sitting on the front row, and he's been my wingman and partner for a very long time, and we've put 4 sons in the United States Air Force, so thank you, babe. And the last thank you is to my wingman sitting next to me, the Warrant Officer of the Royal Australian Air Force, Ralph Clifton. Thank you for being a wingman, a friend, my partner at PT today. Let's hear it for the over 45 crowd. And that video you saw was from our Pacific Air Chiefs Conference that we hold every other year. And Warrant Officer Clifton and I had the opportunity to be with 28 other air chiefs and 14 senior enlisted leaders, not just from the Indo-Pacific, but with people who have vested interests in remaining or keeping our Indo-Pacific free and open. So before we get to a first question, would you like to provide us a little bit of context to your role and the Royal Australian Air Force?
By all means. Thanks, Katie. Thank you very much for having us. It's been 3 days of being the guy getting around in the weird uniform, which I'm sure has been somewhat disconcerting, no more than for myself. As a matter of interest, this is our working dress, day to day. It is, however, our blue identity. When we fight, our combat uniform is not totally dissimilar from yours, but we differentiate between the two. Very quickly, are there any over 55s in the room? Is there anyone else who's over 55? Not one. I was going to ask if you were all right after this morning, but to myself only. Holy mackerel. All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a pleasure to be here. I want to give you a little bit of context, particularly around Australia in the first instance, for those that are not aware. Our land size is the same as continental USA. We do, however, only have 27.5 million people total. So that gives you some idea of the scale of the logistics sort of problems that we face, the sort of weather conditions, you can hear that now, that we face in Australia. It is an interesting place to try and defend. And from an Air Force perspective, this number is going to totally underwhelm you, but right now we're at about 17,500 what we call aviators, airmen. We are a very, very, very small Air Force. However, we are the second oldest Air Force in the world, and this year celebrated our 105th anniversary, which is pretty cool. We started off in World War I, transitioned straight into World War II. Unsurprisingly, as soon as the Germans declared war on Britain, they declared war on us. We stepped straight in. You will all be aware of the conditions, the dates surrounding Pearl Harbor, which is very dear to your heart. To give you some idea as to where we were at the time, Australia saw what was coming. We actually pre-positioned our number 1 squadron onto the Malaya Peninsula, and 1 hour prior to Pearl Harbor, we were laying bombs down on the Japanese ships that were providing troops and support coming ashore in Malaya. So we were intrinsically involved in World War II in that respect. And we have been there alongside our great allies and partners, the US, literally through pretty much every conflict there other. And despite what you may have heard, rhetoric, noise, call it what you will, we're with you in the Middle East right now. We have crews and aviators with our E7 that's been there for months and will remain there in support of. So we've always been there for you. You guys have always been there for us, and I should say a massive thank you for that. It's been really great. My role in the Air Force is not totally dissimilar to CMSgt. Dave and I work very closely together, as I do with Katie, of course. But working with CMSgts or warrant officers of the Air Force from around the world, I don't think I've seen a more collegiate group of Five Eyes at the enlisted level in my entire time. I've been in the Air Force for 40 years now. This is my 4th year as warrant officer of the Air Force, and final, I might add. It's time for a sleep. So I have actually lived through 3 CMSgts, 19, 20 and 21. Right now I see this is the most collegiate group I've ever seen. That is then translated and transcends directly into you, I would suggest. There has never been a time, and I know we'll talk about this with Katie a little bit later, but there has never been a time when we have been more connected, more interoperable, and indeed more interchangeable. That starts at the top, and I like to think that people like Dave, myself, and our Five Eyes partners in particular, indeed partners throughout the world, are demonstrating what good looks like right now.
Thank you for that. And you made me think of a story about, there's a lot of things happening every single day within our AOR that no one knows anything about. And there was a specific circumstance where the boss was dealing with something and he needed a capability, and his boss called my boss and said, all you have to do is ask. And my boss said, okay, I'll start working it. And he said, we're landing in an hour. They had already started answering that call because they knew what we were dealing with. The bond between the US and Australia is one of the most critical strategic advantages. Both of our nations have high-level policy, but how do we ensure our youngest airmen and aviators truly grasp the strategic why behind this partnership?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's actually a question which is quite difficult from the Australian perspective. While we have a landmass the same as the US, we are the world's biggest island, and we have relied on our geographic displacement, for want of a better term, to be our security blanket over a period of time. The unfortunate thing about that is that when we talk about national defence, Australia in particular has not actually been physically attacked, if you like, or at threat since World War II. Japan came down, They bombed the north of Australia for 2 years. That was the last time we were truly threatened. Therefore, we have a generation now that doesn't understand what threat looks like. So for us, trying to work that intrinsic sense of purpose into our aviators, sorry, I'll use aviators instead of airmen, it's same thing, work with me, in our aviators is actually quite difficult. However, the beauty of being a connected world is the fact that now we don't have to look very far to see how some of our allies and partners are doing, what they're doing, where and why, and we can draw very, very clear links to that. I was asked today, hey, have you got much out of this summit? And I said, absolutely I have. I've got lived experiences from airmen, US airmen now, that I can take back and say, hey, look what the US are doing now. This is what matters. I'm quite comfortable, by the way, to say that our national defence strategy has actually called out our potential adversary, being China. To the online folks, China, it's wonderful. We know that they are our greatest threat, and they have indeed been doing a number of what we call sail paths of Australia just recently, testing us. Those sorts of things are great, and to be honest with you, if I could send a Christmas card to Xi Jinping tomorrow, I would, and ask him to keep doing it. The reason for that is that that gives us that intrinsic sense of purpose. It makes sure that our nation, indeed our aviators writ large, understand why what we do every day is critically important. Probably really important there too to note that the sort of capabilities that we employ from an Air Force perspective are pretty much very similar to what you folks do. So we fly F-35, we have a couple of Navy aircraft as well, Super Hornet, we're the only owner of Growler outside of the US, P-8 Poseidon, the list goes on. So we regard ourselves as a Tier 1 Air Force, not necessarily because of the sharp pointy grey things that we own, rather it's about our people. So that intrinsic sense of purpose is what drives us, making sure that they're aware of the environment, be it geopolitical or geostrategic, is absolutely critical to do what we need to do. We live in an interesting area, and I'm sure Katie can back us up here, not outside of, but as part of the Pacific area, we have the Southwest Pacific. You want to see somewhere where our potential adversary is doing pretty good grey zone tactics and checkbook diplomacy. Southwest Pacific is where it's all happening right now. They don't need to use kinetics. That sort of thing is the sort of thing that we are working very actively, not against in the purest sense, but making sure that we have a presence there. Having a grey tail there is absolutely important as well. These are the sorts of missions that our aviators get after every day.
You know, as you were talking about that, I was just thinking that most people don't understand really the scale we're talking about when we talk about the Indo-Pacific. So the United States is roughly 3 million square miles. Our area of responsibility is 100 million square miles. So when you talk about getting to the theater, getting into the theater, and the things that we do together, it's difficult. But that brings me to the next question. As both our forces shift toward Agile Combat Employment, ACE, and distributed operations, we are placing immense trust in small enlisted-led teams. How is your Air Force developing its NCOs to operate autonomously and often interchangeably alongside their U.S. counterparts in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, great question. So ACE concepts are something which we are doing today, every day, wherever we possibly can. We are looking throughout the north of Australia in particular to look for airfields that are suitable for us to use. They literally number in the thousands right now through the top of Australia, and that's a good thing for us. We also understand, though, that as a small force in particular, our resources are absolutely critical. I've heard it said before that you only really train to the last conflict or war that you truly won, I would put it to you, and this is going to be really controversial, I would say that the last war that both of us truly won was probably World War II. Therefore, as a result, we are not going to be able to do what we did in World War II, where we just replace B-25s and B-17s and crews. That doesn't happen these days. So for a small force in particular, we need to look after our resources. We need to get inside of that targeting cycle. We need to provide the targeting conundrum. So ACE concepts are critical. We make sure that our aviators understand every day what that means. As a small force, particularly, if we want to talk about maintenance here, I had CMSgt Flossie come across and visit us a little while ago. And I sat him down in a room in Williamtown where we have our F-35s, and I put 5 aviators in front of him. I put a black-hander, engines and airframes. I put a white-hander, avionics. I put a gunny, armament technician. We put a metal basher, so structures, and we put a life support fitter in front of him. That's it. That's all that we use to maintain our aircraft. 5. We have to be light and lethal. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. So for each and every one of our aviators, they understand that they have to be that, and someone used the term today, that multi-capable aviator. That is just the way we do business. It's hard, it's not easy. A lot of our capabilities coming out of the US in particular are not set up for that level of maintenance at that sort of degree. So once again, from an old bloke's perspective, I set my aviators a task to make them look at the problem set, give them an idea of what the solution might be, and then I step the hell aside. Why? Because our brilliant young aviators will get after it, and they're proving that every day. ACE is what we do. We intend to move quickly, like properly quickly. We intend to integrate fully with the US in particular and other partners throughout the Pacific to conduct those sorts of operations. We will work together in that manner, but we're going to do it incredibly lightly. We're going to have a very light footprint and we're going to move fast.
Excellent. So let's pivot to our operational integration during Exercise Southern Cross, where General Schneider and I, as well as the Japanese Air Self-Defense Forces, were together in Australia. We've historically focused on interoperability, communicating and fighting alongside one another. The new benchmark is interchangeability. In your view, what does enlisted interchangeability look like on the flight line or in the command center?
All right, so a great example of that was during Southern Cross, and Katie and I had the true privilege of witnessing this firsthand. We saw FARPing demonstrated out of the back of an Australian C-130 onto 2 Australian F-35s. The crews that did that, everything from the refuel portion of it to the rearm portion of it, was done with mixed aviators. What do I mean by that? US, Japanese and Australian. They worked together to make sure that they could do the job. Everybody was doing everybody else's job. Up to and including, we had a 75 squadron, one of our F-35 jets there, which was being flown and operated by a female F-35 USAF pilot. So that is truly interchangeability, the ability to be able to do each other's jobs, do it well, do it safely to make sure that the mission gets done. We proved that day. Katie and I were standing there saying not more than 18 months earlier, our aviators, airmen did not have the authorizations to even marshal each other's aircraft. That's the sort of speed at which we're moving. Again, give our aviators a problem set, tell them what we need to get after and step the hell aside, because it was those aviators that achieved that. Beyond that, we also ended up with maintenance that was being done between each other. For the F-35 folks in the room, you'll understand the constraints around Alice. We said to our aviators, how do we fix this? They said, stand by, give us a couple of minutes. They came back and said, here's how we do it. And they did it. So we have maintainers from the USAF fixing Australian F-35s, swinging spanners alongside allies and partners. This is how we will succeed into the future. There is no doubt in my mind that that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. And I think it's one of those things that when I'm old, well, maybe older, sitting in my rocking chair, I'll remember, standing in front of his aviators when they said, we couldn't even marshal your aircraft. And we said, we've got to be able to do better. Yep. And then to stand there alongside our bosses and watch that happen. What do you think is the next logical step to push this interchangeability even further down the chain of command? And what authorities do our NCOs need to make that happen?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question. What does good look like into the future? I would suggest that good looks like this becomes business as usual. Right now, we're sort of doing it in exquisite little ways around exercises and those sorts of things. I would love to have a US F-35 arrive on one of our bases and our aviators not even blink. Not even blink. Just turn it around, push it back out into the fight, push it to wherever it needs to go. That, as part of business as usual, I think to me is utopia. Because if we're not training as we fight, if we're not rehearsing every day for the fight tomorrow, we're fundamentally getting this wrong. It's really nice to see it moving at pace right now, but certainly into the future, we need to make sure that this is business as usual. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And everyone should just go, yep, we're just going to crack on and get it done. It's that simple. From an authority perspective, I like to think that my position, indeed for most of the people in the room, your positions is about sweeping the path. If you are not clearing the path for your aviators to get after conducting interoperability, interchangeability, ACE concepts, whatever it happens to be, we are fundamentally doing it wrong. Fundamentally doing it wrong. So from an authorisation perspective, that is probably one of our biggest sticking points right now. I would put it to you, the solution is probably in this room. And if it's not in this room, it's probably about 3 ranks lower. Empower your people. Make sure that you sweep the path for them.
That's excellent advice. Many of our junior enlisted members entered the service after the height of OEF, OIF campaigns. As they prepare for and are actively engaged today, as we've heard, in a very different security environment, how do you see the character of warfare evolving, and how will that shape the way you develop, lead, and prepare your forces?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And look, am I an expert in exactly what the war of tomorrow will look like? No. I think we have a basic idea of what it's going to look like. Readiness is absolutely key here. Making sure that our aviators are ready for the fight tomorrow, not the fight of yesterday, is what we should be getting after. People have said to me before, hey Ralph, what's your measure of success in this job? And I know Dave Wolf spoke about this yesterday as well. It's easy to go, well, I'm going to change some buttons on a uniform or get a new hat or something like that. But you know what, right now for me, readiness is the key. And as far as I'm concerned, if I have aviators in the north of Australia who are agile, lean, light, effective and lethal, and they are doing the job because we have made them ready, we've had the difficult conversations with them, we've tried to prepare them as best as we physically could, great success. That comes down to having the difficult conversations now. Not only the difficult conversations with the aviators, airmen, but also with their friends, family and loved ones, I'll be blunt as well. Key enablers, don't ever forget about that. If, however, they're in the north of Australia, they don't know what they're doing, they don't have a sense of purpose, no one spoke to them about what they should be doing, that's great failure. It's a bit of a cop-out, really. because my measure of success, I hope our strategy of deterrence and denial means that it's never actually realised. Best strategy ever, because I truly do hope that it never actually occurs. But making sure that our people are ready, for me, is absolutely critical, and having those conversations beyond any reasonable doubt. And I think making sure that they understand what it is that they need to get after, and then giving them the rope to be able to do that. That's also critical.
Thank you for that. Let's shift a little bit, and you started down that road about families. We talked this morning about adversity and resilience that goes beyond our service members, but also their families. What initiatives is your Air Force found the most effective in building resilience among military family, especially with the high ops tempo we face today?
Yeah, that's actually been a bit of a struggle for us, to be perfectly honest with you. I know Josh Wiener spoke this morning about the fact that he couldn't tell his family about what it was that he was doing. OPSEC is critical, and it can sometimes be a real capability degrader from a home front perspective. For us, we're trying to make sure that when I talk about readiness to my aviators, I also talk about making their friends, family and loved ones ready. That does not mean that we should break OPSEC in any way, shape or form, but it means that ensuring that our people's families are ready. Do they have a will? Who's going to look after the kids? Where do you go in the event of my untimely death? I've had that discussion with my wife Melissa and two little red-headed boys. Yes, not a recessive gene, it is coming back. I produced another two of them. But I had to have that difficult conversation with my family. And this is the sort of conversation that I'm encouraging our aviators to have with their families as well now. Does everybody have a will? Does everyone have a power of attorney? If you depart tomorrow without a mobile phone and no end date, are you going to be worrying about your family because you have not done the right thing and you've not made them ready? So building resilience through conversations, I think, is absolutely critical. Having a plan, actions on for your families is absolutely critical. And when I talk to, when I town hall with spouses and families and those sorts of things, I have that difficult conversation with them. And you'd be surprised how many of them come up and go, thank God you said that. Like, we've been in the dark now for months, years. Didn't have any idea what my husband, wife, significant other was actually doing. Didn't think we could ask the question. They are a key enabler, absolutely key. I'm sure each and every one of you has probably seen an airman that's gone downrange only to find back home wasn't ready. That airman was nowhere near as effective as what they should have been. It's absolutely critical, folks. So we make sure that our families know as much as we can possibly give them, and we make sure that they are ready. Have we got there yet? Probably not, but it's certainly not stopping us having the conversation.
That is very important. It's the things that we're talking about in our Air Force as well, so thank you for that. He has said he's watched you all ask questions all week, and so he is willing to take them. He says you can't stump him. Okay, maybe I just added that part to make it fun.
We'll see how it goes.
But I have one, but if you have questions, please start coming to the mic and I'll call on you. As that's happening, I'm going to ask you, as you look at the strategic environment for the future, and as you leave your Air Force, not really leave, but go on to do something else or maybe just retire, what's the single most critical skill our mid-level NCOs need to develop today?
They need to not think about themselves. Servant leadership, at the end of the day. Be willing to have the difficult conversations. Not think about if I say something, do something, I'm going to be judged for it. Or indeed, it might in some way detrimentally affect my career. Sorry, I'm going to get a little bit squarey here, but that's bullshit, to be perfectly blunt. And this is something which I think we need to think very hard about. I know a couple of the speakers over the last couple of days, I think today, can't put my finger on who it was that spoke, but they were saying, just say no. Until such time as my Air Force actually medallically recognises somebody for saying no, I suspect we won't overcome that culture. But if I've got an NCO who's willing to stand up and say no, seek the reasonable yes each and every time, but when applicable, stand up for your airmen. Say no. And to do that without fear that they will in some way be detrimentally affected throughout their career, promotion or otherwise, that is probably what I think would be absolutely brilliant. I know we've got a couple of people. Give me half a second though. On that note, if you ever get the chance, hop onto the Royal Australian Air Force webpage. The Chief of Air Force has got a webpage in there. His intent is actually there. It's not a bad little read, to be perfectly honest with you. Make sure I'm not going over time. It's not a bad little read. That was actually written by him after 100 days in office. He didn't put his intent out before he arrived. He and I spent 100 days travelling around seeing each and every one of our aviators. We went to 7 continents and met allies and partners. At the end of that time, we did a 3-stripe dinner, sergeants and squadron leaders. So about major level in your area. So E8s, E7s and majors. We got 30 of them together. We had dinner, we broke bread. The placemat where our plates were was his draft intent. At the end of the dinner, he said, whatever you do, don't touch it. At the end of the dinner, he and I went and had a whiskey, a real whiskey, by the way. He and I went and had a whiskey, and we gave them a red pen and said, right, have at his intent. So his intent now is a function of his lived experience, bluing himself, Air Forcing himself for his first 100 days, plus the feedback of some of our most influential aviators, our senior NCOs and mid-level officers, give or take. Part of that, his key to success, and his key to success is quite clear, and that is preserve the force. Preserve the force. The hell does that mean? What it actually means is, to use an aviation analogy, we can't be bingo in the chocks when our nation asks something of us, i.e. we can't be out of fuel before we pull the chocks. This is a people piece, right? So we can't be broken, we can't be out of fuel, we can't have been running at 110% all the time, have the balloon go up and then say, oh, by the way, we need you to run at 120% now, infinitum. Preserve the force. And I need NCOs in particular to be the stewards of that, because they are the engine room.
Thank you. I saw one. Yep, please.
Good afternoon, sir, Chief. I'm Staff Sergeant Alt from Kirtland Air Force Base, and my question is, how is rising sea levels and increasing extreme weather events threatening or changing the calculus of trans-Pacific logistics, projecting air power, and the execution of ACE?
Yeah, holy mackerel. We could talk, that literally is a day topic by itself, and it's a cracking question too. Look, I think Katie's sort of hit on the fact that logistics in our area is ridiculously hard. The scale and size is just would explode your brain. People have been saying to me, hey, how long did it take you to get out here on Saturday night? Door to door, 32 hours. Rising sea levels, climate change are a massive factor for us. We're seeing more cyclones in the north of Australia all the time. That cuts off MSRs. That cuts off logistics routes. And the US is feeling that quite a lot through the north of Australia as now where we have semi-permanent US folks in place. So it's something which we plan for, it's something which we give a great deal of thought to. It's about doing things such as caching, not relying on MSRs, not relying on the aircraft being there. It's a true wicked problem. It really is. And rising sea levels, certainly through Southwest Pacific, is also a massive thing as well. We've got a country in the Southwest Pacific right now that Australia's said, when your feet get wet, come and live in Australia. We've said that to a country. And they are this close, by the way. It is a very near thing. So from a strategic perspective, climate change, increased weather patterns are absolutely foremost in our mind. And a nice little aside to that, and I like the question, a nice little aside to that is how do we best utilise our military members in response to that as well, where it does not become a capability degrader. 27.5 million people, our nation looks to us every time there's a significant weather event. That's not necessarily good for a small force. It's not necessarily our primary job. But it's a cracking question. It's a wicked problem, and if you've got any suggestions, hit me up. So,
Thank you.
Hello, it's Chief RC, 18th Air Force. Hey, just recently, tactically, I got a chance to go to Amberley with my boss, and it was a great understanding of your culture. I will give you a reflection, and then obviously the question is, I thought kangaroos were fine when I was running around them, and then they showed me the video of them attacking the skydiver, and I was like, all right, I'll be a little bit more leery about kangaroos.
Yeah.
That's my reflection. But my question is how exactly can we continue as partner nations build the reps and sets? Because I do believe in the exercise that we took C-17s out there, that it was a great opportunity to be able to flex. What do you see as a partner nation that we can continue to do to build those reps and sets, whether it's through our DLEs or other local exercises to kind of build that partnership?
We seek reps and sets every day. Despite what Sean said today, our KC-30s, we do have a refueling capability, has actually been over here, I think only a couple of weeks ago, doing F-15E model clearances. Every opportunity that we get, we will try and do our absolute best to work with you folks. There's no ifs, buts or maybes about it. I'll be a little bit controversial here. People have said to me, and my own aviators have said to me, gee, there's some interesting rhetoric or political noise, let's call it, that comes out of the US in particular at the moment. And that's obviously concerning for our aviators. You know, I'll throw the dead cat on the table, it's concerning for them. But I'll tell you what, the mill-to-mill relationship could not be stronger. The friendships that we build, the relationship that I have with Dave Wolf as an example, all the way down to our most junior airmen and aviators getting together whenever they possibly can. That's just business as usual. Can we refine that into that ACE concept or the FARPing demonstration? Absolutely. But day to day now, the mill-to-mill relationship, Ralph's opinion, honestly could not be stronger, and it's something which we are deeply proud of. I think too, and this is something for everyone in the room to give a little bit of thought to, when we exercise, think about how we truly exercise, particularly from an aircraft perspective or an aviation perspective. We tend to get a whole pile of fighter aircraft or bombers turn up somewhere, and we focus really hard on the one or two people that are sitting in the front of that. We are fundamentally getting that wrong. If we are not exercising at every level, call it rehearsal if you want to, if we are not exercising at every level, at every opportunity, we are squandering capability and resources. No ifs, buts or maybes about it. We need to be better at doing that. Very quick little anecdote, we just conducted Pitch Black 26 in Australia. 21 countries, 200 aircraft. And I mean from Europe, Asia, and of course America and Canada, give some thought to what our potential adversary was thinking as they sat there with no mates, watching all these aircraft all head to the north of Australia. I like to think they were going, oh crap, they've got some friends down there. It is about demonstrating deterrence through lethality, through relationships, working together as a team. It's absolutely important. But please, each person in the room here is a steward of that exercise at every level. Do not accept going away to just exercise an exquisite capability. If each one of your airmen does not come home going, I've learnt something, I haven't simply been a capability enabler, then we are doing our job wrong. Thanks, mate. Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you, RC. Before we go to that last question, time before last when I was on Australia, I walked 7 miles with my exec looking for kangaroos, asking everyone, where can I find a kangaroo? And I finally found them. They're not nothing you want to mess with.
Do not mess with kangaroos. Yeah.
Beautiful creatures, though. Last question.
Chief Schaefer, 7th Air Force, thanks for taking the podium today. Also, thank you for the saying of throwing a dead cat on the table. I'm going to write that one down. We usually say, like, calling the baby ugly or something like that, but I like that. So, you know, and I'm in Korea, and one of our deepest challenges is working partner-nation relationships, especially when you're working a trilateral relationship between Korea, Japan, and the U.S. There's some deep-seated history there. Can you speak to the countries that Australia has special relationships with in the Pacific where they leverage, as opposed to maybe it's a little harder relationship for the U.S. to build with those nations?
That's a good question, and I'll give that a little bit of thought. Special relationships. Look, we are, particularly in the Southwest Pacific, beyond any reasonable doubt, we regard Southwest Pacific, pretty much from Papua New Guinea all the way down to the lower half of New Zealand, we see them as family. And that's a difference. It's not transactional. So us supporting, enabling those countries, be it through natural disaster, through day-to-day operations, fisheries patrols, so on and so forth, we don't see that as being transactional. Okay, so you're not transactional with family. So for us, really, any country which we regard as family, it's probably a different relationship to what the US might have with that same country. Like it or not, the US tends to be slightly transactional. That's just a fact. And that's fine, and that's important. But for us, it's about building relationships beyond that, understanding what it means to be family, and understanding what it means in a time of conflict or crisis, what it means to be family. I can point to a number of different, sort of smaller countries, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Malaysia, the names go on. And the US has presence in each one of those as well. But again, it's that very close geo-type relationship, family-type relationship that is just that little bit different. But that's not a bad thing either, because that means that as allies and as partners, we can leverage off each other's strengths, understand what the limitations are of each one of those as well, and work out how each of us can work together. We have regular conversations with a number of folks, largely US, as they go into a number of these smaller countries and go, hey, don't overwhelm them just yet. Okay, they're either not going to respond well to it, or it's going to have a negative effect where our adversary to the north is going to see an opening. And this is about that communication piece. It's about understanding what it means to acknowledge another country's sovereignty, their culture, and how best to insert yourself into that, should it be both necessary and appropriate. But that's a cracking question, actually.
Kraken. That's his nickname too, Kraken. So
Oh, there
that
you
works
go.
out great. To wrap it up, you know, you talked about the relationship. Someone asked me a couple months ago in a panel type situation, what's one thing about this job that surprised you or that you didn't expect out of everything else? And it's this. Not the work with allies and partners. I knew that would be part of the job. It's the friendships that will endure long beyond our time in this uniform. So thank you for being here, being willing to come, because it is a long way.
It's an absolute pleasure.
And we really appreciate you. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Awesome. How about another round of applause? Please take your seats. This has truly been a wonderful 3 days of the Professional Education and Development Symposium. Many thanks to many people. But first, I would like to thank the 21st Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, David Wolf, for your support. Because truly this would not be possible had it not been for you. So I truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. Of course, you've heard it being said plenty of times that events like this just don't happen by themselves, or no single one person is responsible for this, and that is the case in this case. We have a staff, my staff from AFSA, we have augmentees. This year, we have the support of the Chief Master Sergeant, of the Office of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, and A1. So please give them a round of applause. We started out on Monday with DAF Day, and you know the significance of that. It shows the importance of how we are stronger together. We moved into day 2 with a keynote address from our 21st Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. We started out today with a keynote address from the other Secretary of the Air Force, and we ended with a display of how important our nation partners are, because again, we are stronger together. We were challenged on day 1 for you all to go out and meet somebody new, someone that you didn't know before. You did it. You did it. I told you that, you know, the whole understanding of what we do in person, you know, is important because we should go out every day to learn something new. So as you leave this place in person, we want to leave you with a new concept of Summit365 by the United States, well, the Uniformed Services Foundation. So I'll call up Dr. Keith Castile, who's the chair of Summit365, to tell you a little bit about this call to action in regards to Summit365. Give him a hand clap as he comes.
Is on. Hello. Hey, thank y'all so much. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Mr. Reed, because this was a concept that was, I would say, manifested in your office. We were thinking about if we had an opportunity to bring development to this particular forum, could we bring this development year-round? And so based on your vision, us mapping it out, we were finally able to do this in 2026. So please, round of applause for Mr. Reed. I would be remiss if I did not ask someone to stand up. Vanity Cross Williams, are you in? Please give her a round of applause, because she has been the brains behind a lot of development that we're doing, and some of the things that you have sat with today. So one thing resonated with me throughout the last, I would say, 2 days. If you sat in a session, a breakout session, please stand. And I would think, thank you all for taking the time to sit in those sessions. So clap it up for yourselves, because those sessions changed a life. And I want to tell you one quick story. Those sessions ran from resiliency, talking about quantum, even AI. And there was a couple of individuals, one in particular today, came up to me and said, that session changed my life. Because I was thinking about other things in life that probably would not be best for the mission or even best for my family. And that person said, because of that session, I'm going to get help. I think not only the presenters, but I thank that person for sitting in the room and saying, I will get help. And also in part because Simsaf Wolf said this morning, we should all be helping out and helping each other. So thank you all for that. Summit 365 is real simple. You come to this session here, you come for the next 3 days for PEDS, you're also going to get development year-round. And so we want to make sure that this is not only happening in the summer when we have this particular event. We want to make sure that year-round that you have a place to not only get a podcast, that you can get free resources, that you're connected to a veteran service organization that also offer scholarships and free resources. You will see that on Summit 365. So please, if we can, pull the barcode up or the QR code up. I don't know if we have it yet. So if you are on LinkedIn, it is Summit 365. If you're on Facebook, Summit 365. Please follow those channels. You will see all the information and resources we have available to you. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sitting in those sessions, and thank you for changing each other's lives. I'm out.
Thank you, Dr. Castile. So, 2027. Dallas, Texas, the home of the world champion Dallas Cowboys. And see, in 2027, they will be the world champion Dallas Cowboys. Yes. So you can mark it today that I said, what is today, the 12th of August? You know, and you know, on the 28th, I turned 59, so I'm old, so, you know, I may forget by then. But I just want you all to know that, well, let me back up. Here's something, you know, we're family, right? Here's something that I need to say, okay? We should never be in a situation, never be in a situation where our Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force has to come to us to tell us that we should be in this room. Never. So we have to do better. And if you promise to do better, then it makes it easier when I go over to his office and ask for his support. So because we're family, I feel that it's the proper way to say it before we leave. So we know in 2027 that we'll do better. Now in 2027 at the Anatole, we do have to compete with the wave pool and that beautiful, you know, water park and things of that nature, but we're professionals. And this is all about professional and personal development and education. So please join me as we come together to do better. And then let's show our Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force that we're real mission, you know, and driven, and we're hungry to sit in the rooms for the professional development and professional education. Can you do that for me? Okay, I didn't hear. Can you really do that for me? Okay, in Dallas, in August, looking forward to seeing you. Please, if you're leaving tonight, be safe. Safe travels. If you're leaving in the morning, please get some rest. There will be the DJ on this level tonight for you to have some safe fun. And then we'll see you in Dallas in 27. Thank you very much.